My name is Thaddeus Sasser. I'm an Associate Design Director on Agents of Mayhem for Volition.
You feel that? Do you feel that?
You're probably sick of hearing this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why did you not choose to brand this game as a Saints Row game? Because, you know, obviously it's such a recognisable franchise. Why did you choose to make this its own thing?
Well, we wanted to explore and expand the Saints Row multiverse and create a new story in a new setting with different expectations. Of course, when you create a new IP, you don't have to do all of the same things you've done previously. You know, some of the features of Saints Row games obviously feature heavy visual customization. That's not really what we're going for with Agents of Mayhem. We're going for deep gameplay customization. So these aspects combined, plus our aspiration to do something different, really led to the formation of Agents of Mayhem.
Okay. Could what you're doing with this game have kind of some sort of crossover into, you know, whatever you do choose to do next with the Saints Row franchise?
That is quite possible. Yeah. Who knows? We'll find out.
Do you have any plans for the kind of next Saints Row game? Do you know where it's going?
Nothing I could talk about. Nothing I could tell you about.
It seems like the sort of game that's built for co-op multiplayer with your 3 different characters. Again, this is probably a question you get asked.
I've heard this a few times,
You've heard this a few times.
But we're really focused on telling a specific story and catering to the single-player experience. Now, of course, every time you add a significant feature like co-op, you're spending a good chunk of your development resources figuring it out and making that work. And we're really focused on creating a compelling story and experience for the single player in this game.
Yeah? Okay. Is it something you could maybe consider as a post-launch thing?
We're not talking about any future DLC plans or anything at this time.
Where did the origins of the idea, what were they? Where did it come from to do this?
Well, there's always been this fantasy of doing a kind of like a super agent agency. And the core idea has always been these super agents fighting against obviously super villains. So, and that's been around for a long time.
Yeah. And where did the kind of Saturday morning kind of cartoon 80s kind of vibe come from?
That was part of the initial idea as well. There's something really compelling about the idea of collecting these action figures and picking and choosing and sending them into battle, right? It kind of throws back a little bit to cartoons, or not cartoons, comics like DC or Marvel or something like this. Yeah, the idea that you've got this collection of super agents and you send them out into battle, as I said, there's something really neat about that.
Yeah, and obviously the A-Team and Knight Rider, that was kind of in the
the 80s, right? Yeah. Saturday in the 80s and so on. And we draw a lot of inspiration from that period. There's a lot of nostalgia there.
Yeah, absolutely. The nostalgia thing I was going to say is a big thing. I guess the whole team are passionate about that kind of stuff.
A lot of us really love that kind of stuff, and you can see the influences throughout the game as well.
In terms of kind of games, what were your kind of primary influences in that respect?
Well, I mean, obviously the Saints Row series and our own Volition Special Sauce, our signature brand of humor and sandbox gameplays are the primary ingredients in this game. And I think that there's a lot of iteration in games where you discover new mechanics. For example, the agent swap was discovered during the creation of this game. And they really inform a lot of your other choices as you continue to develop the game. And it's a very organic process as you build something and then you iterate and then you look at what it was and where it needs to go and how much fun it is, and you iterate again and you continue it. It keeps evolving. So.
Yeah. Well, there are aspects as well in kind of the verticality in particular.
Yes.
That kind of remind me of Crackdown a little bit. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's the second time I've heard this comment. I haven't heard that a ton, but somebody else commented about the jumping and the collectibles, and I can see that. I don't think that was really necessarily our intention, though. The verticality is something we're very interested in exploring because it adds, this is going to sound like a terrible pun, but it adds a whole new dimension to how you're exploring. And we could really create a high density of gameplay by adding more verticality. There's a lot of cool exploration with the various crystals and the chests and the upgrades and all these things, and combining them together with the verticality and the way you traverse through the city, really, we had some interesting discoveries and some interesting challenges to overcome when creating that.
Traditionally, Saints Row has kind of been set in fictional worlds. I know it's not a Saints Row game, but why choose a real-world location like Seoul, and why Seoul in particular?
Seoul really provided us with a lot of inspiration.
I just realised I pronounced that terribly.
No worries. Seoul really provided us with a lot of inspiration. I mean, if you look at the city visually, aesthetically, it's really got some unique character. And the culture of the people of South Korea is inspiration as well. And being able to draw from these real-world elements and put them together into a game gives us a really solid base to start with that we can then, you know, mold and shape in our own fashion. And I think having these elements to play around with gives us a great starting point. Yeah. So.
In terms of gameplay, obviously we know it's a third-person action game, but we haven't really seen much of the sort of leveling and I assume there'll be skill trees and things like that.
Absolutely.
Running XP and stuff.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the big things about this that I really enjoy is the idea that as you develop your agents, you'll unlock more gadgets and the ability to specialize these gadgets and change them with Legion technology and so on. And each one of the agents can be kind of pushed in one of two directions. I'll give you an example. Daisy, like if you really like the minigun style of play, you'll be able to decrease the heat on her minigun or decrease the cone of fire or increase the rate of spin up so that it spins up faster and so on. You can really focus on making the most awesome, badass minigun Daisy that you want. Or if you like the jammer mode, you can go fully the other way and make the jammer mode more awesome. Apply a status effect when you hit enemies or do more knockback or more damage when you hit somebody and so on. And you can also take a middle path where you blend these two together and find your own unique style. It's kind of a spectrum where you can figure out where it is you want to land. And I think this really provides a lot of flexibility in how you build your squad and how you build your agents. Because if you build this agent to specialize on short range, and this one to specialize on long range, and this one to specialize on taking down enemies with status effects, now you can start to play with the pieces and you can see, oh, I could beat this boss fight this way, let me go replay it on a higher difficulty for more XP or whatever it is. So there's a lot of replayability and a lot of really interesting detail that people like me, the people who love to min-max, who love to figure out all the little parts and how they fit together, can really get into.
So it's kind of a deep RPG.
There's a lot of deep RPG mechanics in there, yes, absolutely. Especially for the people who are interested in it. Now, if you're not interested, you don't need to do that to beat the game. You can do this loadout and you'll have your standard gadgets and so on, and you can play through that way and be completely successful. Yeah. So it's there if you want to dive into it, and if you are more interested in the basic gameplay on the top layer, you can do that as well.
Does the leveling tie into where you can kind of go within the open world at all? Like are some areas like a certain level?
Well, not literally strictly. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Now, there are 4 outposts in the city, right? And the first one you'll be introduced through the critical path. You'll play through and take an outpost and find out what that means. Yeah. But every time you take an outpost, the other outposts get more defenses put around them. So you see more driller machines, you'll see turrets, sniper towers, roadblocks, turrets popping up on the roadblocks, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And of course, this makes the area much more different and a lot harder to get into. So if you're not leveled up and you come against these really hard defenses, you might want to go off and do some other stuff before you come back to that. But if you're awesome, you can still go through it. Or if you're careful, you can still go through it. You can still take them down. So it's not really like a hard gate on those parts so much.
Okay, and outside of the critical path, what kind of side activities can we look forward to?
Oh, there's a bunch to explore and find. Whether it's triggering something like a race, a driving race, or an on-foot race, or just discovering something organically as you run around in the world. You might find, for example, a Legion patrol, and Friday's like, take those guys out. Yeah. Okay, I can do that. Or maybe there's a hostage to rescue. Or maybe you just found a hidden secret Legion lair in the middle of the city, and now you can go in there and clean that thing out. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, these Legion lairs, they're procedural, which means they're put together as pieces. So they're not going to be the same thing each time or in the same location each time or anything like that. It's going to be very different experiences. So there's a lot of these little activities and diversions for you to find throughout the game world. Yeah.
With 12 different characters, do you find it tricky to choose your favorite combination?
Me? No. I have a favorite. Yeah.
Okay. Who are they? I
love Daisy. I love her personality. I love the minigun. I like the skating. I just think she's really, really cool. And secondarily, I find Braddock to be a really good counterpart to her. Yeah. Daisy's really good at managing large swaths of low hit point enemies. With the minigun, she can mow through them, right? Yeah. And Braddock is really good at focusing on a single high health target. Okay. Especially with the AP rounds, when you use your special with Braddock and you take down that one enemy by punching through his armor with the AP rounds. She's super effective at that. And if you back them up with somebody like Yeti, who's a close range combatant who can freeze enemies, or Hardtack with his shotgun, or Redcard with his automatic shotgun, you've got a powerful squad, and this is a really good combination.
Awesome, and I guess you must be looking forward to seeing other players' favorite combination.
Oh yeah, no, I've already learned things from other people playing. Yeah. One of my favorites was, I was watching a player play, and he figured out that he could lay down a plague arrow with Rama, poison a dude, switch to hardtack, run into a group of other dudes, and then use the teleharpoon to pull the plague dude over and shotgun him, and the plague spreads when you kill the guy, and now it spread to all the other enemies. And I was like, I hadn't thought of that. That's pretty much brilliant.
Awesome. That's part and parcel of the fun, I
guess.
Right,
that's the emergent aspect. I love seeing what players come up with. That's really fun for me as a designer.
When all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Farewell.
Agents of Mayhem is available on August 18th in Europe, and it's going to be on PC, PS4, and Xbox One.